Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com, and I am here today with lesson number 12 in our incredible new tutorial series where you are learning artificial intelligence on the Jetson Nano. I will need you to pour yourself an enormous mug of iced coffee, and I will need you to get out your Jetson Nano gear and get ready to learn some cool new stuff. What? You don't have your Jetson Nano gear yet? Look down in the description down below. I have links to all the identical hardware that I'm using in this series. And if we use identical hardware, it makes it a little bit easier for you to play along at home. Hey, also want to give a shout out to you guys that are helping me out over at Patreon. Those of you who haven't signed up yet, look down in the description down below. There's a link to my Patreon account. Think about hooking a brother up, keeping me in coffee beans and in keeping my studio gear up to date so I can continue to improve the quality of educational material that I am providing for you. But enough of that nonsense about talking about my Patreon account, and let's jump right in and get ready for today's lesson. Okay, what we're going to do today is sort of a follow-on from last week's lesson. In last week's lesson, you learned how to use Python with the library OpenCV and fire up either the Raspberry Pi camera or a webcam. And remember how it worked. You fired up the camera, you would go out, you would grab a frame and show the frame, and grab a frame and show the frame. So you're able to actually, within a Python program, start the camera and display the video coming from the camera on your screen. Okay, now as we get along in this series, in this tutorial series, and start doing more and more sophisticated things, we're going to start ending up with a bunch of windows. And as far as I can tell, when OpenCV places a window, it's sort of a video window. It just seems to place it in random locations. And maybe if people know more about it than I do, they could explain how it is the windows end up where they are. But what's going to end up happening is we're going to be doing a lot of image manipulation. And so we might apply a mask and we might have a little window to see the impact of that mask. And then we might filter that result and end up with another window. And then we might apply a smoothing function and end up with another window. So we might end up with 8 or 9 windows. And if those little video windows are just popping up in random places, it's very hard for us to see what's going on. And every time you run the program, you try to get your windows oriented. And so what I'm going to show you today is how to move the windows within the program so that you can keep your desktop organized. Because as we start really getting into this, this is going to be important. So what I will need you to do is come over, and I will get out of your way here, hopefully. Come over and open up your Visual Code Studio, which we installed a few weeks ago. And then probably, if you remember, we left off with this OpenCV 1, but I don't know, we were playing around with it. So it would probably be good if you went to the website, our website, www.toptechboy.com. And if you look, I have a lesson on starting the Raspberry Pi camera or a web camera on the Jetson Nano. I'll put a link down in the description where you can hop right over to this page on the website. And then we can kind of get this core program that we developed last week so that we're all kind of starting from the same spot. And this program just fires up the camera and then grabs a frame, shows a frame, grabs a frame, shows a frame. This is going to be our starting point for the next umpteen lessons. And so we'll always want to go back and kind of start with this as a starting point. And let me make sure I got the latest one here. Do a quick reload. I had played around and tweaked a few parameters, and let's make sure that this looks good. That does in fact look good. And so if I come up here and click on this little 2-page thing, it selects all the code in that box. Let me see if I can take this back. It's kind of hard. Yeah, there it goes. Okay, so I'm going to click the 2 little pages, right mouse click copy. Now I have that, and now I'm going to come back to Visual Code Studio. And remember, we made this folder, this OpenCV folder. You want to click on that and then come back to the main folder, Pi Pro. click the plus, and now you're going to have a new file, and we are going to call it, OpenCV2, and then I'm just going to do dash move window .py. The .py is important. That suffix is important because it tells everything that you're dealing with a Python program here, and that actually matters. And then I call it OpenCV. I call it OpenCV2 because this is the lesson number 2, and then move window because that's what it does. And so let me click enter, and now I have a new window, and let me close this one from last week, and then I'm going to paste this starting code from the website. So right mouse click and paste. Okay, so you can see that we're starting by setting for the Raspberry Pi camera a display width of 640, a display height of 480. Flip makes it right side up for how our camera is oriented. If yours comes up upside down, switch the flip back to 0. And you can see you've got two choices here. You can either use these two lines of code. You can use these two lines of code if you're using the Raspberry Pi camera, or you can simply use this line of code if you're using a webcam. Okay, so let's try this. I'm going to uncomment out the Raspberry Pi lines, the two lines that we would use for the Raspberry Pi. I'm going to right mouse click and run Python file in terminal. Boom, you can see that we had it come up. That is in fact from the Raspberry Pi. You can see I'm putting my finger over the Raspberry Pi camera, and it is coming up and looking good. Everything's good. Hello. Okay, I'm going to quit that. Let's say if we wanted to use the webcam, I also have a webcam on this Jetson Nano. I would come down here and uncomment out this line of code, and for me, my webcam is probably going to be on 1. If you only have one camera, then your camera is probably going to be 0, but if you already have something hooked up, your webcam might be camera 1. So I'll try that. Right mouse click, run Python file in terminal, and boom, look at that. Okay, that is the webcam. So you see with this little code, depending on whichever camera you have, you can get it running. So let me quit that. And then again, this core, I'm going to go back to the Raspberry Pi camera. Do this. Do this. Now the Raspberry Pi camera should be hooked up. Okay, so now the core program is really simple. We come in, and from our camera object, we read it and we put it in the variable called frame, and then we show it, and we show it in a window that we name NanoCam. What do we show? We show that frame that we read, and then we sit and we look to see if anybody has pressed the Q key, and if we press the Q key, we break out of this while loop, and then we let the camera go and we destroy all the windows. So this is kind of our core program. If you don't understand it, go back and watch last week's lesson. But okay, let's see what we could do here. So I do a show, and after the show, what I could come in and do is I could do a CV2 dot move window, CV2.move window, and then I got to tell it what window do I want to move. Well, I want to move NanoCam, the one that we just created. And then where do I want to move it? I want to move it to 0, 0, because remember, it was kind of showing it halfway off the screen or in different strange locations, and so I want the upper left corner of the window to be in the upper left corner of the screen, and this should move it there to this very nice location. So let's try it. Let's right mouse click and say run Python file in terminal, and boom, look at that. Coming from the Raspberry Pi camera, the window is 640 by 480, and it's in the upper left corner of the screen, which is exactly what we wanted. And so now as we make more windows, we can keep those windows organized. So let's go ahead and let's make another window, another image window. But let's try to shake things up a little bit, and let's try to keep it interesting. So rather than just showing a bunch of copies of that same image, that same frame, let's create a new frame, and let's call that new frame gray. Okay, and gray is going to be equal to cv2.cvt color. That means convert color. So I'm going to do a cv2.convert color. And then what am I going to convert? Well, remember our frame that we just read in? I'm going to take that frame and I'm going to do a cv2 dot in all uppercase color underscore BGR, because remember we're in blue, green, red. We're going to go BGR to gray. Okay. And do you see how it actually finds it? And you can, if you want to be a little bit easier, you can click on it there. Okay, so let's look at this line again. We create a new frame. Frame is equal to cv2.convertColor of the original frame. Okay, and then what do we do? cv2.color underscore blue, green, red to gray. So now that should be just like frame, only it should be gray instead of black and white. So now with that, what could we do? Well, we could do another IMShow. So we're going to do cv2.IMShow, and then what are we going to name this window? We're going to call it gray video, like that. And now if we put it at 0, 0, it would be on top of the other one. And so what we want to do is we want to put it down below. And so if we come back up here and if we set our display window to be 640 by 480, and if we think there's that little bar on the top of the window, I think that if we put it at about 0,500, that should be right below that top image. And again, if I put it at 480, I've got the little menu bar that's going to be in the way. So I think that probably 0,500 would be pretty darn good. And so let's check that out. Right mouse click, and I'm going to say run Python file in terminal. Ooh, something it did not like. What did it not like? I said cv2.imshow. Oh man, that is absolutely not the right thing to do. I combined two steps. I hope you guys were yelling at me. What do I want to display? I want to display gray. And then what do I want to do? I want to do a cv2.move window. And then which window do I want to move? I want to move gray video window that we just made. And where do I want to move it? I want to move it to 0. I better get my outside my quotes there. Okay, so it's gray video, and then where do I want to move it? 0,500. So instead of being up here at 0, 0, I want it to be at 0 and then 500 down. And that I think should work. Run Python file in terminal. Boom! Look at that. Okay, do you see what we have? We have our original video in color, and then right down below it, but not covering it up. Well, maybe I should move it a little bit further down, okay, because it is a little bit. This window is. Let's see if we made it 520, what it would do. Okay, I need to go back and kill that window with a Q. Remember, we can kill these things with a Q. Let's make it 520 and see what happens. Run Python file in terminal. Yeah, I think that's a lot better. You can tweak these things to meet your own requirements. But you see now every time when I start it, everything is exactly in the right spot. So now I'm going to click on that and kill it. And now let's go ahead and let's do 2 more, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show each one of these twice. And so what I will do here is I'm going to copy these 2 lines, all right? And then I'm going to paste them here, okay? And now I'm going to make 2 new windows. I'm going to have NanoCam 2, NanoCam 2. But this one, instead of going down by 520, I'm going to want to go over by 640. So I'm going to go over by 640. Okay, so this should be like our 3rd window. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to make a 4th window based on this. I'm going to say copy. And then I'm going to come here and I'm going to make a 4th window. And this one we will call Gray Video 2. And then we will call this Gray Video 2. And this one we want to be down 640, and we want it to be over 640 and down 520. Okay, so what we're going to do here, I made the wrong one too. Okay. Are you guys keeping up? So this is, I'm going to show Gray Video, and then I'm going to move Gray Video to be down 520. Now I'm going to make Gray Video 2, and I'm going to make it to be down 520, but also over 640. So now I should have 4 windows. Okay, does that make sense? Let's right mouse click, let's run Python file and terminal. Hey, you guys kind of got a freebie. Whoa, look at that, 4. And do you see even with the 4 displaying 4 images, it's still keeping up very nicely. And let's look and see how well, all right, really we need to move it over by more than 640. Do you see how this is kind of covering it up? So again, you got to kind of tweak these things, but I think maybe we'll try 6. Let me just try 700. I don't know why it doesn't come out exactly the number of pixels you would expect, how you would expect it, but I'm going to make these 700 and see if that would kind of have them where that second column of windows isn't covering up any of the first one. So let's do a right mouse click and say run Python file and terminal. Okay, yeah, I think those are just almost precisely side by side. Okay, I really like that. I think that looks really good. So we got 4 windows. They're all running nicely, and they're exactly where we want them to be. So anytime we ran this thing, we could right mouse click, run Python file and terminal, and boom, look at that. Everything right where we want them. Okay, let me quit. What if we made them little windows? Let's try 320 by 240, and then I would then need to kind of come in and make this, I'll tell you, it's really easy to mess up. This one we're going to make, let's make it 350, okay, and then let's make this one 260, and then let's make this one 260, and let's make this one 350. Okay, so these should be smaller windows and they should be around where we want them. Okay, run Python file and terminal. Boom, look at that. All the little videos exactly where we want them. Now I should say what I just did is only going to work if you are using the Raspberry Pi camera, because the Raspberry Pi camera in this cam set uses these display things to where if you just fire off the webcam, it's not using those parameters. Okay, so it's going to be 640 by 480. So let's go back to 640 by 480. 640 by 480. Okay, and then what I am going to do is I am going to go back to here 700 on the position, and I'm going to go, what would that be, 520 on the position, and then I'm going to go 700 and 520. You could imagine you could do this with parameters and really make it very elegant, but that would be a pretty easy thing to figure out. So let's do a right mouse click and say run Python file and terminal. Okay, so here we are again. Boom, that looks good. All right, just let's have a little fun here. I don't know if any of you guys have two cameras like me, but what I am going to do here is I'm going to turn on both cameras now. So I'm going to turn on that second camera. Okay, and then this is going to be, okay, this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another read in here. I'm going to read the other camera. So I'm going to say copy, I'm going to say paste, and then I am going to call this second camera, I'm going to call it cam 2, and then I'm going to read the second frame from cam 2, and that's going to be frame 2. Okay, so frame 2 comes from cam 2, frame comes from cam, and then nano cam is going to show frame, and then what I'm going to want is nano cam 2. I'm going to want that to show frame 2. And this is some crazy stuff that we're doing down here. Now, what we need to do here is when we convert to gray, okay, what would we want to do here? We would also want to convert. So I'm going to select that, copy. I want to convert that second frame to gray 2. So I'm going to say V, Control V. And then I'm going to make this gray 2, and gray 2 is based on frame 2. And then down here, I will want to show gray, and then I will want to show gray 2. What is the chance that I did that crazy man coding without making a mistake somewhere? All right, let's try it. Right mouse click, run Python file in terminal. Boom! Look at that! 2 cameras, black and white and color. Okay, so let's look at this. So this is the webcam. You see the webcam, my hand is in front of the webcam, and I've got color and black and white on the right. That's the webcam. And then over here, I've got the Raspberry Pi camera. And so I've got 2 cameras running at the same time. I'm trying to see, does it look like there's a little bit of a difference in latency? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like there might be a tiny bit of more latency between these two things, and it looks like the webcam is just a tiny fraction of a second slower. Yeah. It's maybe a quarter of a second slower. Let's look in there and see if we can figure out what might be going on. Well, what we do is it looks like we are, it might be on the display side because I'm doing some things here. Okay. Although it must be, I think the way I'm displaying them, it must just be between grabbing them that there's a little bit of latency on the webcam that's not on the Raspberry Pi cam. So let's try running this again. Okay. That is really cool. We've got everything just where we want it. We got 4 windows. And hey, you also learned another command today. You learned how to convert something to grayscale. And so you can see that there's all types of different conversions to do. And let me just explain that a little bit more again, that if you remember the Raspberry Pi camera and the webcam, OpenCV reads, instead of red, green, blue, it reads blue, green, red. And so what you're saying is that you're saying to convert color, cv2.convert color. You want to convert the color of what? Of frame. And then how do you want to do it? Well, you want to convert color, okay, blue, green, red to gray, and then you end up with a gray image. And if you look in there, there's all types of different conversions that you can do, but that's just a quick one. Okay, guys, this is getting a little bit more advanced. It was a really important lesson because as we start doing the image recognition, and as we start doing the image processing and the manipulation of the images, we've got to have lots of windows and we've got to keep them organized. This will allow you to keep your windows organized. So what you guys need to do is go on and play around with these different parameters that you can use and move your windows around and kind of get comfortable with where the extent of your screen is and all the different places you can put them. It's also kind of interesting if you have the Raspberry Pi camera and you make these a lot smaller and just really stack up a lot of the little video windows. And so that's your homework for today, is play around with that. Okay, this has been kind of a quick lesson. To me, it's been kind of a fun lesson. And let's see, I'll give you a heads up. What we are going to do next week is we're going to, we can move the windows now, but next week what we're going to do is we're going to resize the windows, because as you're doing all of this masking and all of this filtering, a lot of times you might want 8 or 9 or 10 very small windows that let you see the progression of your image processing, and then you want the final result big. And so it's very helpful and very powerful to be able to resize windows. Okay guys, this is Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, really appreciate you guys that are helping me out on Patreon. Look forward to talking to you guys next week, and so we will see you guys later.